Gyeongseong Creature follows the horror-filled journey of the influential and popular pawnshop owner, Tae Sang. Our story starts in 1945, Gyeongseong, during the Japanese occupation of Korea, and we meet our protagonist in an unusual setting, a torture chamber. After a session of electro-torture, the main police chief of Gyeongseong, a Japanese sympathizer named Ishikawa, gives Tae Sang a job. Tae Sang must find Ishikawa's missing lover, Myeong-ja, before the cherry blossoms fall. And if he doesn't, then Tae Sang will be sent to the army and lose everything, including the pawn shop. Using his connections, Tae Sang makes quick work to find out everything he can about Myeong-ja, including that she is pregnant and was kidnapped by Ishikawa's powerful Japanese wife, Lady Maeda. As Tae Sang learns, Myeong-ja is among several women who have never been seen again after entering the mysterious Ongseong Hospital, an exclusive Japanese hospital that doubles as an army base and can only be used by Japanese and high-up Japanese sympathizers. At the same time as Tae Sang is tasked with finding Myeong-ja, two sleuths, a father and daughter named Yoon Jong-won and Yoon Chae Ok, arrive in Gyeongseong looking for a Japanese artist named Sachimoto. Feeling the heat of Ishikawa's threats, Tae Sang is intrigued to hear that two sleuths who are famous for being able to find people have arrived in Gyeongseong. So, Tae Sang tracks them down and asks for their help to find Myeong-ja, although they initially refuse. When they find out that Sachimoto is also in Ongseong Hospital, they agree to help Tae Sang. You see, Chae Ok and her father are trying to track down Sachimoto because Chae Ok found an illustration that he made of a woman who looks just like her mother, who has been missing for 10 years, and whom they are desperate to find again. Together, the three of them, along with Tae Sung's Korean freedom fighter friend Kwon Jun-taek, plot their way into Ongseong, while Jun-taek, as the son of a powerful Korean, can help get them the right IDs and disguises for the hospital. Nothing can prepare them for the untold horrors that are waiting for them in the dark and sinister underground labs of Ongseong Hospital. Once inside, Chae Ok makes quick work breaking into the records room in search of any trace of Myeong-ja in the hospital. But just as Chae Ok and her father are snooping around, suddenly sirens sound and the hospital is shut down, trapping Chae Ok and Jong-won inside. The next morning, Tae Sung finds out that the hospital has been closed and is soon visited by a hospital nurse who hands him a note from Chae Ok. They have found Myeong-ja. Although he is usually the type to look out for himself and put himself first for his own survival, Tae Sung decides that he has to meet with Sachimoto and find a way to get Chae Ok and her father out of the hospital. As it turns out, Sachimoto is the artist who has been hired to document the horrific human experiments that are secretly being conducted in the hospital. Disgusted and repulsed by what he has seen, Sachimoto is set on putting a stop to the experiments and quickly becomes a valuable ally for Tae Sang since he lives in Ongseong Hospital and is trusted by the Japanese as a national. Meanwhile, back at Ongseong, Chae Ok and her father are fighting for their life to avoid Japanese soldiers who patrol the hospital and its maze of underground passages like a prison. Trying their best to avoid the troops, the father-daughter duo makes some discoveries. For one, Chae Ok finds a laboratory filled with jars containing human heads, along with other evidence of the experiments taking place. She spots soldiers dumping piles of human bodies, Korean prisoners who died when the air of the dungeons was infected with the anthrax virus. When Chae Ok finds a group of children being held prisoner, she decides that they have to be rescued, killing the doctor who has been injecting them with a mysterious substance. Chae Ok helps the children up the air vents and into the empty storage room that they are using as a base. When, with the help of Sachimoto and Jun-taek, Tae Sang arrives back at the hospital to rescue Chae Ok and her father, Chae Ok convinces him to help the children escape instead. Together they arrange for the oldest boy to be disguised as a rickshaw driver and to hide the others in the rickshaw's secret compartment. It's a daring plan, but it works as the children sail past the guards and straight to the pawn shop in Gyeongseong. Although the children safely make it back to the town, Tae Sang and his team are now trapped without an escape plan, so they begin sneaking around using the empty air vents. You see, While Chae Ok and her father did find out that Myeong-ja is definitely being held in Ongseong, they still need to find out where exactly in the hospital she is being kept. Exploring the underground labs, it doesn't take long for Tae Sang, Chae Ok, and her father to see, firsthand, the human experiments being done by the evil Dr. Ichiro and General Kato, who run the hospital with authority. As we come to learn, General Kato, who is in charge of the experiments, had, during his travels in the Korean mountains, discovered a small organism named Na-jin. When swallowed by a human, the Na-jin turns the swallower into a horrendous monster that can only be fought with nitrogen gas and fire. So, as Tae Sang, Chae Ok, and her father scout the hospital in search of the prison where Myeong-ja and the others are being kept, they are shocked when they unexpectedly run into the massive Na-jin monster named Seishin, a huge creature with long tentacles that burst out of its back. The hideous monster doesn't hesitate to kill anything in front of it and heals itself instantly. Although Tae Sang and Chae Ok manage to escape the monster with the help of Chae Ok's father, who gets split up from the group here, the inevitable happens and they are exposed and arrested by Japanese soldiers who separate them for interrogation. In a dark room of the hospital, Tae Sang secretly makes a deal with the soldier, holding him for interrogation, in exchange for setting the soldier up in Gyeongseong with money and a house. He must get rid of the prison guards and leave the key with Tae Sang. Meanwhile, Chae Ok is beaten up, nearly assaulted, and taken to General Kato. During their conversation, General Kato is fascinated when he figures out that Chae Ok is the daughter of the woman whom they turned into the Seishin monster. As for Chae Ok herself, immediately after her talk with Kato, she is thrown in a cell where she finds the words, "I miss you, Chae Ok, my dear daughter," written in blood on the walls. Chae Ok is in shock. Her mother was here after all. After reading the message on the wall, when Tae Sang shows up to help Chae Ok escape, instead of following him, she returns to Kato's office, where he explains to her how the Na-jin works. Horrified by what she's learned, Chae Ok is more determined than ever to free the Korean prisoners. Together with Tae Sang, they start to plan a way to save everyone. But there are still more surprises in store. For the next time that Chae Ok comes face to face with Seishin, she comes to the devastating realization that the massive Na-jin monster imprisoned in Ongseong is actually her missing mother. Overwhelmed by this discovery and set on somehow rescuing her mother, but aware that every second they stay in the hospital it gets more dangerous, Chae Ok has no choice but to follow Tae Sang when he comes up with an escape plan. Distracting the Japanese, Tae Sang manages to help everyone escape to freedom, including Myeong-ja and all the other prisoners, leaving him alone in the hospital with no way out and countless Japanese soldiers on his tail. But little does Tae Sang or any of the others know that there is about to be a new monster in their midst. While Myeong-ja was escaping, she drank from the cup of water that General Kato had placed a Na-jin inside of, turning her into a monster. Once back in Gyeongseong town, Myeong-ja fully forms into a killer, eating the brains of her victims. So, if Myeong-ja swallowed the Na-jin, why did she stay in her normal human-looking body? Well, as Kato explained to Lady Maeda when she asks the same question, when the Na-jin enters alone, it turns the swallower into a brain-eating superhuman that is difficult to kill and heals itself. But when it is mixed with the anthrax virus, it turns into a horrific monster like Seishin. But what happened to Tae Sang? Well, while disguised as a Japanese soldier, he is shocked to see Lady Maeda at the hospital. One thing you should know is that before this whole story began, Tae Sang and Lady Maeda were friends, and as it becomes clear to us, Lady Maeda has some unreciprocated romantic feelings for Tae Sang, so she agrees to help him escape. Once outside the hospital, Lady Maeda nurses Tae Sang back to health, and he returns to the town, much to the relief of everyone, especially Chae Ok, who has realized her very own feelings for Tae Sang and is racked with guilt for having left Tae Sang in the hospital, even if she didn't know that he was planning on staying behind. As it turns out, both Tae Sang and Chae Ok in the middle of the adventures have started to like each other, but dating might be a bit hard when you are fighting off monsters and Japanese soldiers. On one of their dates, they are distracted when they find Myeong-ja trying to eat a police officer's brains. Chasing her down, Ishikawa shows up and, learning about Myeong-ja's condition, he turns on her. But Myeong-ja isn't going down without a fight, and she attacks Ishikawa. Eventually, though, Myeong-ja is taken back to the hospital, where General Kato delivers her baby, killing her in the process, and inserts the Najin parasite into the baby. How creepy. As for Ishikawa, it is actually Lady Maeda who kills him with the help of Dr. Ichiro. Severely injured by Myeong-ja's attack, Lady Maeda spots the opportunity and tells Ichiro to kill her husband with a lethal injection. Lady Maeda is a mysterious figure, born into a very powerful Japanese family. Behind the scenes, Lady Maeda is deeply involved with everything that happens in the city. In fact, it is Lady Maeda who is the primary sponsor for everything that happens at the Ongseong hospital, and as we find out, it was Lady Maeda who gave Chae Ok's mother to the hospital and asked them to turn her into a monster that Maeda can control to kill anyone she wants. Romantically interested in Tae Sang, Lady Maeda is furious when she learns that he has fallen for Chae Ok instead of her. So after Chae Ok publicly shoots Ichiro, Lady Maeda kidnaps her, beats her up, and gives her to Kato. Meanwhile, General Kato is only too thrilled, particularly since Seishin has been going crazy ever since the monster met Chae Ok. Kato is plagued by the question, how Seishin will react when it sees Chae Ok again. After Maeda sends Chae Ok away, she shows up to talk to Tae Sang. Lady Maeda tells him that not only is Chae Ok dead, but all his friends, including Yoon Chae Ok, have ratted him out after being tortured. What Maeda is referring to is a scene that took place earlier, when Yoon Chae Ok entered Ongseong along with Tae Sang and the sleuths. He had gone to ask his freedom fighter friends where the secret location was, where they had hidden their stores of dynamite. However, while in the hospital, he was captured and tortured by the Japanese soldiers. As a prisoner, Yoon Chae Ok was injected with something that caused him so much pain that he was forced to betray Tae Sang, Chae Ok, and her father. Similarly, Tae Sung's close family-like friend Gu Gap-pyong, who works as a butler-like person in the pawn shop, had also given him up after being brutally tortured. After listening to what Lady Maeda had to say, Tae Sang surprised her by saying that he doesn't blame his friends since they should never have been put in that situation to begin with. In the conversation, we even find out that Tae Sang knew all along that Mrs. Nawol, someone who is like a mother figure to him, was the one who gave up his real mother while she was in prison. And despite knowing this, Tae Sang has stuck by her side all these years. While Lady Maeda fails in turning Tae Sang against his friends after their talk, Tae Sang is even more anxious to save Chae Ok. He just can't believe that she could be dead like Lady Maeda says. Tae Sang starts by approaching Yoon Chae Ok's freedom fighter friends, who were also among the prisoners he freed in Ongseong. Previously, the freedom fighters' big plan was to blow up an event with a bunch of Japanese officials, but that had fallen through. So, when Tae Sang approaches them with a new suggestion to blow up Maeda's house in the middle of Ishikawa's funeral, they are more than intrigued. The plan works, and the dynamite kills and injures many of the powerful Japanese, including Lady Maeda herself. However, as we see later, Lady Maeda does, in fact, survive. But back in the present, Tae Sang still needs to find Chae Ok, so he rushes to the hospital with a bag full of the rest of the dynamite. Once inside, he meets Chae Ok's father, who is still hiding in the vents. There, he tries to convince Jung Won to accept tickets abroad and run away with Chae Ok once they escape. Since Chae Ok is still a wanted criminal for shooting Ichiro in broad daylight, they can't stay in Korea. However, Jung Won, spotting the dynamite in Tae Sung's bag, refuses the offer and instead blows himself and Seishin up in a massive, coordinated explosion of huge sections of the hospital. With the chaos of the explosions, Tae Sang, Chae Ok, and Sachimoto are given a short chance to escape Ongseong. Outside the hospital, Sachimoto takes a moment to apologize to Chae Ok for standing by as he watched the Japanese experiment on her mother before Tae Sang and Chae Ok disappear into the night. Although they are out of the hospital, more danger is just around the corner. On the road back to Gyeongseong, Tae Sang and Chae Ok are met with Maeda and her thug henchmen. This is before she is blown up during the funeral. Not good. But, in a surprise twist, Seishin didn't die in the dynamite, and instead, fueled by her motherly instincts, came to their rescue. However, while fighting off the thugs to protect her daughter, Seishin mistakes Tae Sang for an enemy and tries to attack him. Tragedy strikes when Chae Ok bravely shields Tae Sang from the attack, taking the lethal blow instead. Impaled by Seishin's tentacles, as Chae Ok dies, Tae Sang devastatingly cries. Although things seem bleak for Chae Ok, later we see Chae Ok and her mother sinking into the water. In an attempt to save Chae Ok under any circumstances, Seishin gives the Najin to her daughter to save her, since the Najin will instantly heal her wounds, even if she turns into a monster. The next thing you know, Seishin is sinking further into the darkness and Chae Ok opens her eyes. To end things off, in the post-credit scene, we open with a montage of Korean history and a young man who looks just like Tae Sang, living in modern-day Seoul.